Number 10. Against discipline. Smith's unusual parenting style has raised eyebrows over the years, but he and his wife faced backlash in April 2013 when he revealed that they didn't believe in punishing their two younger children, Willow and Jaden. Will told Metro UK, quote, "We don't do punishment. The way that we deal with our kids is they are responsible for their lives. Our concept is, as young as possible, give them as much control over their lives as possible." And when talking about the concept of punishment, they believe it has too much of a negative quality. Basically, their whole parenting philosophy is that they don't believe in disciplining their kids. But criticism of their parenting style really exploded in 2014 when 13-year-old Willow was photographed in bed with a 20-year-old actor laying down right beside her. The whole thing even led to an investigation by Child Protective Services. In an interview with BBC Radio a couple of years later, after the initial drama, Will actually admitted that he and Jada may have gone a bit too far in their hands-off approach, and perhaps should have kept a tighter rein on Jaden and Willow. Regardless of whether you think the Smiths were wrong in their parenting approach or not, there's no denying that it led to two incredibly creative individuals. Number 9. Wanting multiple girlfriends. While the Smiths are no longer trying to hide how they feel about open relationships, many people have actually taken more offense to Will's misogynistic comments about women, specifically when he admitted in a 2021 GQ profile that his fantasy was to have, quote, "a harem of girlfriends." He proceeded to name Halle Berry and ballet dancer Misty Copeland as two women that he would invite to be in it. Then, under the direction of an intimacy coach that he had at the time, he researched them and even made plans to contact them. Quote, "The idea of traveling with 20 women that I loved and took care of and all that, it seemed like a really great idea." Obviously, he never acted on the impulse, eventually realizing that it wouldn't be fun at all in reality. He apparently came to the conclusion that it would be horrific and it would in fact make him miserable. Can't really argue with that one, but it might have been a good idea to keep that fantasy hidden. Number 8. The entanglement. Musician August Alsina brought the Smiths' relationship into the spotlight in July of 2020 when he revealed that he was romantically involved with Jada, and Will knew about it the whole time. He had even given them his blessing. Although Jada initially denied the claims, she eventually confessed to being in an entanglement with August when she and her husband were separated. Quote, "We decided we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy," Smith said during an appearance on the Red Table Talk in July of 2020. They both went on the talk show together, and in a heartbreaking episode, Jada told Will how she came to be romantically involved with August, and how he made her feel special because of what they were lacking in their relationship at the time. Will took the whole thing like a champ, but the clip went viral online because he looked like he was on the verge of tears the whole time that Jada was talking. Looking back on that moment now, it almost hurts to watch. Number 7. Strange beliefs. Jaden and Willow Smith have long been open about their bizarre opinions, but all of their insane comments have mostly been swept under the rug over the years. The siblings have also come out and labeled themselves as indigo children, who are believed to possess special, unusual, and supernatural traits that was popularized in the 70s. One of the most unforgettable interviews was done by T Magazine in 2014, who felt that their sibling dynamic would make them just the right people to talk about all those classic teenage topics such as quantum physics, prana energy, and the lucid, often elusive nature of temporal interpretation. Jaden said, quote, "Here's the deal, school is not authentic because it ends. It's not true, it's not real. Our learning will never end. And that kids who go to normal school are so teenagery and so angsty." He went on to say that you never learn anything in school. Think about how many car accidents happen every day. Quote, "Driver's ed? What's up with that? I still haven't been to driver's ed because everybody I know has been in an accident, and I can't see how driver's ed is really helping them out. I mean, we could break that down even more, but I don't really see the point." It's just funny because you know he was completely serious when he said it. Number 6. Hating on Aunt Viv. One of the most controversial opinions that Will has had is that of Janet Hubert, who played Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When she left the sitcom due to creative differences in 1993, Will slammed his former co-star during a radio interview. "All I can say is straight up that Janet Hewitt wanted the show to be the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air show." He also said that she told him, quote, "I've been in the business for 10 years and this snotty-nosed punk comes along and gets a show." Those comments marked the start of what would eventually become a 30-year feud. Janet claimed that Will spread lies about her behavior on set because he knew the audience was mostly on her side. It wasn't until the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion special in 2020 that Will even acknowledged that he had made the set difficult for Janet during the 3rd season. It was a really sad moment because she admitted that the rumors Will started had cost her everything, including her career and her reputation, saying, quote, "Calling a black woman difficult in Hollywood is the kiss of death." Will only realized his mistake much too late and said that after having 3 kids, he's learned some things he did not know at the time, and he would do things differently with Janet had he gotten another chance. Number 5. Secret third child. Not everyone knows that Will actually has a 3rd child from his first marriage to Cherie Zampino. Trey Smith, who is now 29 years old, mostly lived with his mother following his parents' divorce in 1995, and so that's why he's still relatively unknown. But Trey has actually struggled quite a bit compared to his half-siblings. In a 2018 Instagram post, Trey said that he felt betrayed and abandoned for a long time after his parents' divorce, and even Will admitted that he and his eldest child struggled for years to develop a good father-son relationship because he basically made a whole new family and moved on without Trey. The truth is, his father's total absence from his day-to-day life was quite hard on him growing up, and Will has also said that he regrets how neglected Trey felt. In fact, they have only recently been back on good terms, and the actor said that he and his firstborn son have slowly started growing and healing, overcoming their past trauma, even posting on Instagram in 2018, quote, "It is a wild blessing to recover and restore a loving relationship with my beautiful son." Number 4. How they met. The couple often paint their love story as one for the ages, but they definitely tried to gloss over the fact that their relationship began when Will was technically married to his first wife, Cherie. In fact, Jada let this information slip voluntarily in a 2018 interview with Access, admitting that when Will first reached out to her, he wasn't exactly fully free to do so. Quote, "He was just separated," and then went on to say that the divorce had not even happened yet. The couple has maintained that they weren't physically involved until the divorce was finalized, but many fans believe Will's heart had certainly strayed well before he made any move to end things with Cherie. During a sit-down interview on Red Table Talk, Will actually said that at a certain point in his first marriage, quote, "I had a realization that I wasn't with the person I was supposed to be with," but maintained that he didn't want to get divorced. He kind of admitted that instead of being honest with his wife right away, he just lost feelings for her and kept it private. But in the end, his ex-wife was the bigger person and ended up asking for the divorce, which allowed him to publicly date Jada right after the papers were signed. Number 3. Nepotism. The Smith family are undeniably a very tight-knit unit, collaborating on so many projects together throughout their careers. Some critics have accused the patriarch of nepotism, and they may have a point. It's pretty easy to see why. Just glancing through Jaden Smith's IMDb page, you can actually see that most of the movies he starred in were produced by one of his parents. The accusations were so intense that in Will's memoir, he opened up about casting The Pursuit of Happiness, saying that the studio actually didn't want to cast Jaden because it would seem like nepotism, and that would just ruin the credibility of the film from the get-go. But even though the studio was hesitant, the concerns didn't keep the Smiths from pushing for Jaden to get the part, and eventually they had their way. Don't get me wrong, the movie was great, but fans could not ignore the clear favoritism that was happening behind the scenes. Many people even called out his acting abilities in After Earth, which completely bombed at the box office, and Will even called it the most painful failure of his career. Number 2. Open marriages. Will and Jada have been shutting down rumors for literally decades, from claims that they're in an open relationship and speculation that they're swingers, to reports that Jada even cheated on Will with Mark Anthony. During an interview with GQ in 2021, Smith finally revealed that he and his wife haven't always been monogamous. Quote, "Jada never believed in conventional marriage," and went on to say that Jada had family members that had an unconventional relationship. So she grew up in a way that was very different to how he grew up. He hinted that both parties had taken advantage of the trust and freedom in their relationship in their own way. Will admitted that for a large part of their relationship, monogamy was what they chose, but it's clear that somewhere down the line they decided to stray from that traditional dynamic. In fact, Will was rumored to be hooking up with Margot Robbie on the set of their film Focus in 2013, after photos were leaked of the pair joking around and getting very close in front of the camera in a photo booth. But Margot was quick to deny everything on Twitter. Quote, "There's absolutely no truth to the ridiculous matter. It's disappointing that goofing around on set could be taken so out of context." Well, people really do jump to conclusions. And coming in at number 1, ties to Scientology. While the couple have never confirmed their religious affiliation, the Smith family has long been rumored to be members of the controversial Church of Scientology. Smith told Men's Vogue in May 2011, quote, "I've studied Buddhism and Hinduism and I've studied Scientology with Tom Cruise, and nobody's saying anything different." His comments obviously earned a great deal of backlash, especially when he claimed 98% of the principles are identical to the principles in the Bible. But then in October 2018, he declared that his family have never been Scientologists. To confuse matters even more, many of the Smiths' movies reportedly contain Scientology references and themes. In 2013, Vulture even called his sci-fi flick, After Earth, that he did with Jaden a love letter to Scientology. Not to mention the fact that in 2007, Will and Jada donated over $122,000 to the church. The truth is, we may never know whether the family are members of the religious movement or not, but the fact that the famous family hasn't condemned Scientology is already a major problem for some fans, especially as more and more disturbing allegations are continuing to come out about the church in recent years.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Daft Punk, the electronic music duo that everyone has loved to try and identify. While the creators themselves have been identified as Guy Manuel Christo and Thomas Bangalter. The two of them formed Daft Punk in Paris back in 1993, and for years people have typed their names into Google trying to uncover pictures of who they really are. They perform behind big robot heads and wear gloves while performing their music on stage. Even when they are off stage and doing interviews, they remain wearing masks or do the interview with their backs to the camera, creating a sense of mystery for their fans. During an interview with the Rolling Stone, they explained, and I quote, "It creates the line between fiction and reality, creating these fictional personas that exist in real life. I don't have many people constantly coming up to me reminding me what I do." Photos of the duo from the 90s have surfaced online, but media outlets are still trying to hunt down and get that recent award-winning photo of them unmasked. At number 9 is Sia. She sings the mega hit Chandelier but has also written countless songs for big stars like Beyonce, Britney Spears, and Carly Rae Jepsen. Although she's known worldwide for her incredible music, she's also known for her wigs. For years, Sia has worn big blonde wigs that completely cover her face, and not just as a costume piece. She genuinely wanted to hide her identity. She has been open about her reasoning and says it has everything to do with hiding from the media. During an interview, she said, "I don't want to be critiqued about the way I look on the internet. I've been writing pop songs for pop stars now for a couple of years and I've become friends with them and see what their life is like, and that's not something I want." She was very successful at hiding her image and was able to enjoy things as simple as grocery shopping because people wouldn't even know that it was her walking through the grocery store. In more recent years, however, she has showed up to a few events without a wig, but overall still keeps a very low profile. Coming in at number 8 is Gorillaz. The band doesn't wear masks or disguises like some people on our list. Instead, they turn themselves into animated characters. The band produces a mix of pop, electric, and rap and features digitally animated characters on stage. Seeing the Gorillaz in concert means you are jamming out to a giant screen with their characters on the screen while the real musicians perform behind it. The musical project began back in 1998, and a comic book artist named Jamie Hewitt helped design their characters, Noodle, Russell, Murdoch, and 2D. The idea behind the band was that the lead singer, Damon Albarn, was able to escape from fame and facial recognition. During an interview, he said, "One of the things that really got to us was the nature of celebrity and the cynicism of popular culture. Over the years, they have collaborated with big artists like Danger Mouse and Snoop Dogg, but still like to avoid any extra attention from fans." Sliding into the number 7 spot is Slipknot. The heavy metal band has always been known to hide their identities of their band members by wearing a variety of different masks and costumes. The reason for it is to drive public attention away from themselves and onto their music, so I guess you could say it's like a business tactic? The vocalist of the group commented during an interview saying, "It's our way of becoming more intimate with the music." The idea of covering their face was apparently brought brought up by one of the group members who would often just bring masks to their rehearsals. They continued to talk about the idea and develop it further, which soon led to them having matching costumes as their stage image. For many years they managed to keep their faces hidden from the public, but over the years their names were identified, making it easier to track down those images. More recently, a new member of the band was added, and people are going nuts trying to identify who it could be. So if you do, let me know in the comments because I want to know who it is. And at number 6 is Mike Candies. It's a very common thing for famous DJs to wear masks when they perform, so this one isn't all that surprising. Mike Candies is a music producer and DJ who originally came from Switzerland. He gained a lot of popularity with his remixes and was on the European top charts for a long time. But before everyone knew who he was one of the people who used a mask to hide his face. Out of all masks he could think of, he ended up going with a giant yellow smiley face helmet, basically making him look like a walking emoji. The DJ's real name is Michael Call, and he now posts pictures of himself totally unmasked. Mike said he came up with the mask because he didn't just want to create music, but wants to put on an entire show together. He claims that his helmet helps him while performing and is also entertaining for the audience. Apparently the first mask idea he had was going to be a dragon head, but he decided to simplify everything and came up with a smiling emoji. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Buckethead, another musician that covers his face with a mask, but this one isn't anything fancy like the other ones on our list. The famous guitarist is known for being tall, mysterious, and silent. His real name is Brian Carroll, but got the name Buckethead when he decided to go on stage wearing a white mask and an empty KFC chicken bucket on his head. He painted the bucket and slapped on an orange funeral procession bumper sticker. He tells fans his original story as to why he came up with the mask and says that he was raised by chickens and that they scratched his face off. Clearly he likes to just keep everything a mystery. MTV News once asked him about the mask and he simply replied with, "There is no mask." The internet is full of fake photos that pretend to reveal his face, for money and attention of course, but no one has actually seen him without a mask. Here we are at number 4 with the Blue Man Group. The name makes sense the second you see what they look like. They are literally a group of painted blue men. The group is a performance art company known for its unique stage productions, which mixes music, art, digital effects, and dance. It was first created back in 1988 and was an experiment for theater, but since then has expanded to several cities and gone on multiple world tours. Originally the group was created by 3 men, Chris Swink, Matt Goldman, and Phil Stanton. But now, according to Inc., there are about 70 blue men on their payroll system. These silent performers all look the exact same, so you can never tell them apart while they are performing, even if you knew who they were. Once they are done their performance, they just wipe off their paint and join society like their regular selves. If you think about it, someone in your own town could be a member of the Blue Man Group, and maybe you just don't even know it. Alright guys, at number 3 is Pussy Riot. The Russian punk rock group is known for its controversial lyrics, but also for their erotic actions. The group is made up of women who often stand up for their rights and protest for the change they wish to see. In August of 2011, it was confirmed that the group had approximately 11 women ranging from the ages 20 to 33. You will always find them wearing rainbow-colored ski masks to hide their identities because they want to avoid fines and even possible jail time. The group, which is known for protesting against Russia's leader Vladimir Putin, stormed the soccer field at the World Cup last year in 2018. This isn't the only protest scandal the group has been involved in either. In 2012, 2 of the group's members found themselves spending 2 years in prison. So although it would just be easier to not do illegal things and just show your faces, they choose to wear these ski masks to avoid getting caught or recognized for their music or bad behavior, and they said that they will continue to hide their faces at all costs. And at number 2 is Marshmallow, the music producer and DJ who always walks around with a giant smiling marshmallow mask on. Another interesting choice when it comes to picking your identification mask. The talented artist launched into the music scene and pretty much became an overnight sensation. With his giant marshmallow mask, he gained an incredible amount of fame very quickly. Like others on this list, he created a mystery about his real identity, which just made his audience want to get to know him even more. It has been an ongoing joke in the industry of other artists grabbing the media's attention just to reveal themselves as the real Marshmallow. Over the years, there have been multiple fake reveals. Once he was revealed to be Will Ferrell, and another time Shawn Mendes. The DJ, who has a net worth of $21 million, was finally identified as Chris Comstock. Social media detectives and EDM fans have figured out that Chris Comstock is also .com, a music producer registered on the same management roster as Marshmallow. Forbes confirmed and reported that they are in fact the same person. Marshmallow has since gone on like he always does, wearing his big white mask and pretending that no one knows who he really is, which we might not, maybe we have it all wrong. He hasn't taken the mask off, and when he is asked if he ever will, he tweeted out, "I don't take my helmet off because I don't want or need fame. I'm genuinely trying to create something positive for people to connect with." Oh come on Chris, just take the mask off already. already. Taking our number 1 spot is Banksy. Banksy is one of the world's most controversial street artists for his unique graffiti that has turned the world upside down. Some of his works have been removed from public spaces and sold for millions at auctions around the globe. But he's also known for being the invisible man of the graffiti world. That is right, he has been in the graffiti scene for over 20 years but somehow remains unknown. There have been many attempts to unmask him, but it seems like everyone's efforts have just failed. There is still no definite confirmation on the artist's real name. People are also wondering why he doesn't want to reveal himself, and people think the most logical reason would be to avoid prosecution. Let's not forget that graffiti is vandalism, so creating street art is a risky business. His work is technically illegal, so he would be punished just like anyone else would. As of right now, the world has their eye on a guy named Rowan Gunningham. A picture of him surfaced with graffiti supplies that look similar to his Boy of a Life buoy art. However, the picture is a man out in the open with all of the supplies and smiling for the camera. Let's be honest, he's been hiding for 20 years. I don't think he would just be out in plain sight like that. Artists have replicated his artwork for many years and there is still no confirmation. Rowan Gunningham has denied that he is the artist, so until there is evidence, the mystery continues.
Number 10. Contestants are prisoners. Most reality shows force their contestants to share a living space for the duration of their stay. On air, it seemed like everyone on Love is Blind was granted access to this cozy little private room all to themselves. Well, that's not the case. In the past few years, contestants have actually shared their horror stories surrounding their living arrangements. Instead of a private room, all 15 men and women are meant to share separate trailers, with men in one and women in the other. They essentially lived in tightly stacked bunk beds. Now, it's one thing to jam people into like a tiny trailer and call it a gift, but the producers decided it would be a great idea to make their blind lovers stay in their pods for up to 20 hours a day. Not only did they not have enough time in the day to actually sleep, they literally couldn't if they wanted to. The situation was so bad that whenever a couple weren't really hitting it off, they would mutually agree to nap for the rest of their time together. Somewhere out there, there is just thousands of hours of footage of people just being like, hey, are you bored? Cool, I'm gonna just... That sounds like the most devastating way to be rejected on the planet. There are a ton of other reasons that the set was considered to be toxic, but we'll get into those in a sec. Number 9. 50 grand fine. Reality shows are an interesting medium. For a long time, I honestly just assumed that anyone who was on these shows wasn't getting paid, that their payment was just, wearing nice clothes, living at a resort, and performing coitus for 6 weeks straight. But it turns out you do get a little paycheck for participating in a reality show. And I do mean little. For the folks at Love is Blind, they'd be given up to 8 grand over an 8-week period, which sounds kinda good. A grand a week is not that bad, but that payment was something like $17.50 an hour because of the, 20-hour work days, both during and after the pod segments. If the cast members decided that they wanted to leave the show early for any number of reasons, then thanks to the contract that they signed, they would immediately be fined $50,000. Not only were they being underpaid and overworked, but their only option out of the situation would be one hefty fine. Honestly, considering some of the other entries that I'm going to talk about on this list, I'd gladly take a 50 grand L if it meant that I could go home. Number 8. Scouting process. For reality TV shows, there has always been a bit of confusion on how they get the people, right? What's the casting process? Where do they find all these unique and interesting individuals for our viewing pleasure? Well, for Love is Blind, they did it the old-fashioned way. Swiping on Tinder and Instagram looking for lonely singles ready to mingle. Now, I wish I was making this up, but in doing research for this video, I found out that this is actually a real process that takes place behind the scenes. Someone is paid to scroll online and DM people to get them onto the show. Several contestants claim that the first messages that they ever received were on Instagram from random accounts linked to producers. Because that's not sketchy at all. Someone wants me to be on Netflix, sign me up. Oh, I just have to send them $1,000 first. Awesome! I'm sorry, that is just the sketchiest way to get hired for a job on the planet. Now I'm sure there are sketchier things, but I have yet to experience them. Number 7, Mark. Now, who could forget this poor man from the very first season of this show? Mark and Jessica were the couple from reality TV heaven. On screen, they were a chaotic pairing, with Jessica flip-flopping her feelings for Mark over and over again. She would love him, she'd have some no-no juice, then she'd hate him, rinse and repeat. However, behind the scenes, it turned out that Jessica's outbursts may have been warranted. It was revealed after the show aired that Mark was actually seeing someone else while he was on the show, and he actually mentioned it to Jessica. She was, of course, not happy to learn that the man that she was somewhat interested in was already seeing someone else back home, which is probably what caused her to break up and get back together with him like 6 times in one season. I don't know if that's accurate, but it really felt like it is. At the end of the season, she decided to leave Mark at the altar, and he was barely fazed by it. Now we know why. At one point, Mark actually wanted to opt out of his contract, but he was actually pressured to stay in by the producers because they were getting such good content out of this guy. Number 6, the pods. The first portion of this show is dedicated to the contestants spending time in pods, space that is designed to allow all love to bloom without the need of any visual stimulus. The pod segments take up a good portion of the show, but for the contestants, they would spend 20 hours a day in their pods, going from room to room and getting to know each other. Now, 20 hours a day were dedicated to you staring at a wall and talking to someone that you couldn't see, and I'm pretty sure that's the definition of insanity. Okay, the actual definition of insanity is the state of being seriously mentally ill, but you get my point, okay? When you realize they were being paid $7 an hour to do it, this just feels like cruel and unusual punishment. They'd nap in their pods because the sleeping conditions were so bad, but the pods took up so much time that even if they did want to sleep, they wouldn't have any time to pass out and wake up. It wouldn't work. Number 5, no therapy. The premise of this show, for those of you who don't know, which how did you get this far in the list if you haven't, is potential couples meet in pods with large walls dividing them. Now they can hear each other, but they can't see. The idea is for people to find love with individuals before getting the chance to actually base their love on physical features. When they meet in person, they get some time together before they have to decide if they want to get married or if they want to end things right then and there. Now it's kind of a nice premise, and surprisingly there have been a handful of successful marriages that come out of the show. Amber and Barnett for the win. However, there is a certain mental toll that shows like this just take on you. One former contestant, Nick from season 2, made a list of all of the things to keep in mind when you were watching Love is Blind and posted it on Instagram. One of the first things that he listed out entry by entry was the pressure cooker of the decisions that must be made before you actually get married. Despite the decision making and life changes that the show was responsible for, they apparently provided little to no therapeutic support at all. Nick claimed that he made 3 phone calls to the so-called mental health experts that were designated by the producers, but the conversations were short and usually ended with him being told that it would be taken care of. But of course it never was. For a show centered around emotional connections, the people in charge consider that to be the last thing on their minds. Number 4, be dramatic. It's no secret that some reality shows are actually scripted or self-indulgent. On shows like The Bachelor, they ask contestants to play up the drama, and occasionally someone will literally egg a person into doing something wild. For Love is Blind, they ramp the requests up to 1 million. If you are upset or angry with anyone, just do it! Go yell at them! Find the person who hurt you and just let it out. A ton of the show is edited to make situations look worse than they actually were. I know, it's shocking, eh? Mark and Jessica, for instance, were actually pretty good at communication, but the show was edited to make it look like she had a bit too much no-no juice and flip-flopped on her feelings for Mark. Now, on top of the out-of-context editing, many cast members explained that speaking to production was basically pointless. Sorry, I spit a lot just then. Many cast members explained that speaking to production was basically pointless. If you brought an issue up with them, they would just say, okay, and then move on. At one point, people were literally told to stop speaking to production staff altogether. And in season 2, one contestant, Danielle, got incredibly sick and was made to isolate for a few days. And at one point, she had a panic attack. The moment was edited to make it look like she was jealous of Nick, her potential partner, for speaking to another woman. Number 3, yes, have some. Throughout production of Love is Blind, there is one perk to staying with a ton of people in one trailer and having your escapades recorded for the world to see. That perk is having food and beverage catered 24/7. The contestants were given the chance to take from a large table of various goodies all the time. Pretzels, little sodas, and of course, lots and lots of no-no juice. The no-no juice budget on this show must be insane, and part of the reason why we see so many contestants get tipsy and wild. This would also explain why in season 1, Jessica always seemed to have her adult smell grape juice on tap, literally holding a fresh glass in every other clip. I know I'm talking about them a lot, man, that just sticks in your head after you see that. The production team has been rumored to be fairly manipulative as time has gone on, and it would be no surprise to learn that they encourage their cast to indulge a little for the cameras. Number 2. After the altar. Following the end of most reality shows, there tends to be a little reunion special. Everyone gets brought back together to go over clips, rehash old arguments, and sometimes they get to squash them too. For Love is Blind, After the Altar brings everyone together, from the people who did get engaged to those whose engagements ended in disaster. This is just another way for the show's producers to squeeze as much drama out of these people as they can. Several couples are still together from the first 4 seasons of the show. There are also a ton of horror stories in between A and B. This isn't really a secret, I just thought it'd be fun to mention that this part of the show is kinda messed up. Just a little bit. And at number 1, exploitation. Taking the top spot on our list is of course the more serious and dark secret of all. As mentioned earlier in this list, the footage taken throughout production is usually edited and taken out of context just to make the show look more interesting. Well, that might be a good idea at first, but let that sink in for a second. Someone's job is to take hours and hours of footage of people having genuine breakdowns, anxiety, stress, all that fun stuff, and edit it to fit their format. Some people have never even thought of arguing with each other, but that's what they make it look like, so that's what we're gonna believe. Number 10. The Maui Fund scandal. Now, who would have guessed that the woman famous for handing out cars on her talk show is being cancelled by the entire world? Why? Well, Oprah made a career-ending mistake when herself and Dwayne Johnson broke the one rule of being a billionaire. Don't ask poor people for their money. Last week, Oprah and The Rock announced that they would be starting a relief fund for the victims of the Maui wildfires. The People's Fund of Maui was given a solid $10 million to get off of the ground. $10 million donated by Oprah and Dwayne combined. So why is it just Oprah that's getting so much hate online? Well, it's because she has a net worth of roughly $2.8 billion. Billion with a B. The world is collectively furious at Oprah for having the audacity to ask working class citizens for charity when most people can barely afford to put food on their tables. The Rock and Oprah donated $5 million each to give the fund a head start. Well, guess what? $5 million to Oprah Winfrey is like $500 to us. Like, it's still a lot, but it's chump change to her. Oprah addressed all the hate online, telling the Daily Mail that she was disappointed in the reactions from the world. Rather than focusing on the good things and the people of Maui, the world was mad that she asked them to give her a nickel. Well, Oprah has yet to confirm if she'll be donating any more to the fund, but so far it's not looking like she will. Number 9. Her controversial beliefs. Oprah has had plenty of controversial people on her show, from so-called medical experts to psychologists to celebrities. Whatever is good for TV, it's good for Oprah. One particular incident that caused a ton of backlash for Oprah was when she did an interview with Suzanne Summers. She was brought onto the show to share her beauty secrets on how she was able to look so young. According to Summer, this treatment that she does on a regular basis will help. Suzanne claims that she rubs estrogen cream into her skin on one arm and smears progesterone in her other arm. Progesterone is just a fancy way of saying steroids. She also claimed that she took 60 supplements and vitamins a day, 40 in the morning and 20 before bed. What really stirred the pot was this woman claiming to be a health expert and a so-called self-help author. But surprise, surprise, a doctor she is not. Medical experts started bashing Oprah, claiming that this type of extreme hormone therapy would actually be the cause of several diseases and illnesses. You know, like cancer. Despite Suzanne's claim that her specially made, non-FDA approved bioidenticals are natural and safe, they're actually just synthetic conventional hormones that you can buy from a pharmacy. Oprah did everything in her power to sell this idea to her audience, believing 100% that these methods were useful, and even claimed that she used the methods herself to make herself feel incredible. So this lady would rather risk her audience getting cancer than just telling them the truth. Solid. Number 8. The free cars. Who could forget Oprah's famous words? You get a car, everyone gets a car! The moment was historical on her series and was parodied time and time again, and it still does to this day. However, what many people don't know is that it was not as simple as, here are the keys, have fun. When someone gives out anything on television, there is always a catch. For Oprah's audience, the catch was that if they wanted to drive away in their brand new car, they would have to pay $7,000 in taxes first. While Oprah's studio would cover, the sales tax and the registration for the vehicles, the audience members were given a choice to either pay the $7,000 and take the car, or just kinda take the cash instead. The infamous moment on the show featured 11 real teachers who were, according to Oprah, in desperate need of a new car. They, along with the audience members, received keys in a box on camera that Oprah claimed to be for their new cars. Everything has a catch, even now though. For someone who is known for being super charitable and generous, the word free clearly means something else to Oprah. Number 7, she will never marry Stedman. Oprah and her partner Stedman have been together for a long time, but have never actually gotten married. While Stedman has never explained why this is, Oprah shared her side of the story. According to Oprah, getting married would mean that she would not be able to have her own life, claiming that everything she had built on her own would be at risk, like he was some kind of a career parasite or something. The strangest part about her logic behind this is the fact that she said on air that she wanted Stedman to propose to her as soon as possible, so not sure what that is. Their relationship has survived a lot despite the years of rumors and speculations. However, a source close to Oprah said that in her 4 years working with the show, she could tell that there was absolutely nothing there with Stedman. Oprah just wanted to portray herself as a woman who loves her man, when in reality Stedman probably has a house separate from Oprah's, but it's like 1/5 the size. Number 6, the NDAs. Confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Marvel will literally have someone take you out if even a single line leaks to the public. In Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentions the confidentiality agreements that co-workers and guest stars were always made to sign. This included everyone from Tom Cruise to the person who made Tom Cruise's muffin. Over 500 staff members were forced to sign the document. One former employee, Elizabeth Cody, tried to write a book about her time working for Oprah, but she was apparently stopped by the courts, still being tied to the agreement that she had signed. The NDAs were not meant to be a way to keep just show secrets safe, but any and all of Oprah's secrets as well. According to Elizabeth, the document was signed by almost everyone in Oprah's life. She may have this brand of sweetness and kindness, but apparently that's not how she actually is. Elizabeth felt that she was in Oprah's pocket after she signed the paperwork. In 2010, a lawsuit was even filed against Oprah and her company because Unicus Performance Training claimed that they were fired for violating the terms of this agreement, specifically involving advertising with her name, or the website of the show. That makes no sense. Number 5, diva. On air, Oprah is portrayed as a wholesome, sweet lady, but according to her stepmother, there is an unknown side to this woman, hidden from fans for years. According to Barbara, Oprah is one of the most controlling people that you will ever meet in your life. She claims that Oprah would not allow them to stay at her house when herself and her husband would try to visit, forcing them to stay in hotels with money out of their own pockets. Barbara also said that Oprah was quick to anger when it came to her staff, with several people being fired left and right over the years for the littlest things. But that's not all. Despite being a billionaire, Barbara allows her to stay at her house when she visits, something that Oprah apparently hates. The first time she actually stayed at her stepmother's place, Oprah allegedly complained that her bed sheets were not 1,000 threads and that her bath towels were not big enough. Okay, that one I can forgive. Ever use a giant towel? I'm never going back. This woman has billions of dollars to do literally anything she wants, and apparently what she wants is to make her family feel like a burden. Number 4, the vegan cleanse. Now when I learned about this next entry, I was genuinely shocked that Oprah Winfrey's show was never considered a toxic working environment. It turns out Oprah was a powerful woman when she was running the show. Oprah was an advocate for a ton of things on her show, but the one thing that she really doubled down on were her views on animal rights. Organizations like PETA praised Oprah for her advocacy, especially when she took it a step further by making her staff join her on a 21-day vegan cleanse. Now, while the cleanse was optional, if you signed up, there was no backing out. You were going to be vegan for 21 days or you were fired. Now, it was never actually confirmed if there was a penalty for leaving early, but according to one employee who participated in the cleanse, they were afraid to back out because Oprah was just so demanding. Oprah was a very serious woman behind the scenes, so we can only speculate what might have happened had she spotted a PA eating a Baconator. Number 3, spiritual beliefs. Now I'm gonna start this entry by clarifying, I'm not making fun of your beliefs, okay? If you are spiritual, if you're a spiritual person in any way, shape, or form, please know this entry is about Oprah and Oprah alone, okay? In an interview with Harper Bazaar, Oprah mentioned her daily morning routine that starts at 8:30 in the morning with various spiritual exercises. After reading Gathered Truth, she opens up an app called Bowl of Sake that delivers teachings of the Sufi, followed by some light meditation. The controversy here comes from Oprah inviting several self-fulfillment filming gurus onto her show and just gushing about one specific one named Guru Gary Sukhav's preachings. Now, Oprah herself has claimed to have secret spiritual knowledge about tapping into personal courage and giving general spiritual advice, but she stopped diving too deep into spirituality after this backlash from her fans and readers of her magazine. They just didn't like that about Oprah. Number 2, Wild Child. Several books have been published about Oprah over the years, some from her and some not. In her own book that she wrote, she revealed that growing up she was far from an easy kid to handle. When she was young, she was sent to live with her father Vernon after Oprah was caught stealing from her mother's purse. Despite being an on-screen persona known for charity and kindness, she was actually a menace throughout most of her life, according to family members. As I mentioned previously on this list, Oprah's stepmother is not allowed to stay at her house, and she's known to be pretty controlling. She admitted to doing some pretty troubling things at a young age, including staging an amnesia bout, breaking several things in her mother's home, and calling the police. According to Oprah's mother, she was uncontrollable, ungrateful, and after robbing her, maybe a little crazy. And at number 1, her buddy, Dr. Phil. Oprah is not just responsible for many hopes and dreams being squashed live on air, but she is also the creator of many talk show celebrities, namely health expert Dr. Oz and life coach Dr. Phil. Now, before Dr. Phil had his own show, Oprah had asked him and his courtroom consulting firm to help her with a trial. Before meeting Oprah, Phil had zero interest in being a television personality, but Oprah made him see the light, so to speak. According to Phil, she helped him understand the power of these shows and what they were truly made for. For Phil, he brings people on his show who are struggling with personal issues that just so happen to be good for television. Remember that Catch Me Outside girl? Dr. Phil made her rich and famous. But it's not just Phil that's had some controversial moments though. Her other protege, Mr. Dr. Oz, has had some pretty rough moments. His show is centered around medicine and health, bringing so-called experts on every week. My mother loved this show. Oprah was partnered with both of these people, meaning that whatever their shows made, she got a little something for her trouble. She doesn't like to advertise how much she made from these programs, but considering how many episodes they have done and how long the programs have been on for, it's probably a lot.
Starting off our countdown is Miley Cyrus. She has talked about her Disney experience on more than one occasion, revealing the struggles she faced after taking on the epic role of Hannah Montana. Throughout her career, Miley has shared that she struggled with an eating disorder as a young girl and that she felt wearing makeup and a wig every day was the definition of what it meant to be a pop star. It was difficult for her to really find herself as Miley because the world knew her as Hannah Montana. Her mom is still her manager to this day, and she also admitted that Disney was not always the best to work for. She said she started understanding how many people were taking advantage of her young daughter and revealed that Miley was grossly, her quote, underpaid. It even came to light that Miley didn't even own her name during that time. Since her character outside of Hannah Montana was actually Miley Stewart on the show, they actually had rights to her name, Miley. Many reasons led up to her decision to quit in 2010, and even though she had a tough experience as a kid, she recently said she would totally do a reboot. But maybe now it's different because she's an adult. She can handle the Disney network. Coming up next, number 9 is Joe Jonas. He was just one of the brothers from the boy band The Jonas Brothers, but he took on the lead role in the Disney movies Camp Rock. In recent years, Joe wrote a piece for Vulture which highlighted his time at Disney. In the piece, he revealed that he and his brothers always had to sugarcoat their music and lives to maintain their innocent Disney persona. He said their lyrics actually had to be reviewed and approved by the Disney team, and if anything was too sexual or provoking, then they were told to change it. That was actually one of the main reasons that they decided to quit. He also said that Disney controlled their creativity too much and he started to feel like one of their puppets. For any young child star wanting a music career outside of Disney, this would have been a good warning for them. Outside of the personality image that they had to maintain, he also hated the fact that he had to shave every single day to play a role that was much younger than he was in real life. That would suck as a man. Moving on to number 8, we have Hilary Duff. There have been a lot of conflicting stories about what exactly led to her decision to leave Disney and her lead role as Lizzie McGuire. But fans got some kind of confirmation back in 2003 when her mom did an interview with Entertainment Weekly and claimed it had to do with her paycheck. Susan Duff claimed that Disney was trying to bully her daughter into accepting whatever offer they wanted to make for a sequel to the Lizzie McGuire movie. Her mom said that Hilary ended up walking away from the sequel, but then Disney walked away from the whole franchise. Hilary also spoke about it and said that it really had an effect on her mental health, which is why she chose to bow out for a while. She said, "I was just making records and touring and making movies and then doing it all over again. By the end of it, I was like, I'm done. I don't enjoy this anymore. I'm not who I want to be." So I guess Disney is not paying their stars enough is what I am starting to realize. Sliding into spot number 7 is Selena Gomez. The Wizards of Waverly Place star left her Disney days behind and had no problem explaining to her fans why. It was a pretty simple explanation and was the classic case of feeling the pressure to live up to that innocent Disney image. She told the New York Times, "I was being held to this expectation of being the good girl. I knew deep down that this wasn't what I wanted to do, being exhausted of forcing something that wasn't right." According to Refinery 29, she decided to break away from Disney and actually signed a new contract with Interscope instead. At that point, she allegedly let go of her mother acting as her manager and also had split up with her then boyfriend, Justin Bieber. This was a very big moment in her career, and that is when she released her album, Revival. Once the album was out, she admitted it was the first time that she could breathe and no longer felt like she had to maintain the Disney guidelines. No one really realized just how bad her time with Disney was, and fans were shocked to hear her admit that it actually made her depressed and put her in a really low spot in her life. Rolling into number 6 is Dylan and Cole Sprouse. The twins took over the Disney Channel with their hit show The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody and then The Sweet Life on Deck. From the outside looking in, it seemed like they had the world in their hands. But they suddenly left the Disney network behind and fans were shocked to learn their show would not continue. The boys have opened up about what happened and said they tried to pitch a spin-off idea to the Disney team, but they shut it down. Dylan explained and said, "When we had pitched our idea, it was kind of the situation where they had almost laughed in our faces." He then said Disney came back to them a year later with an idea that was essentially the same thing as their original pitch. That is when he said he and his brother Cole basically laughed in their face and walked out. That was the last meeting they ever had with Disney, and despite having years-long relationship with them, things ended up leaving on a very icy note. They have no problem warning others that Disney might steal your ideas, so keep them to yourself. Halfway through our list at number 5 is Rowan Blanchard. She gained a massive fan base from her time on the newer Disney show Girl Meets World. Fans were crushed when the series was cancelled after their ratings dropped. Forbes reported that the show lost around 3.6 million viewers between season 1 and season 3. But the one thing that people always loved was Rowan and the fact that she prompted the idea of intersectional feminism. Despite her young age, she rallied for the Me Too movement and openly discussed her sexuality. She made a conscious decision back in 2017 to part ways with Disney following the cancellation of the show. She did an interview with W Magazine and said she left because she felt controlled by them. But she didn't exactly say the name Disney Network, probably to protect herself, but people could piece it together. She said, "I worked for a corporation for 4 years that is known for silencing and crafting your voice. So with that, I just had to very much stand my ground and separate myself, which I think I did." She now says that she loves that she's not recognized anymore for her Disney character, but she's now recognized for her activism. In spot number 4 is Raven-Symoné. Fans were devastated when Raven left Disney for a while after her TV series That's So Raven became a massive success. But she shocked everyone when she signed on to do a spin-off of the original show called Raven's Home at 33 years old. Fans really didn't believe that she would work with Disney ever again, thinking that there was bad blood between them, but turns out there wasn't. Kind of. She did admit to feeling the pressure of having to try and fit the mold of Raven from the show, and not who she was in real life, which is also Raven. When she came out in 2016, she revealed that Disney was always very accepting of her and her sexuality, but that people involved in the network weren't. She explained that during the last season of That's So Raven, she wore jeans and a vest and tie, and one of the members went up to her mom and said, "She looks too much like a lesbian. Can you tell her to put on a skirt and makeup? Because then they'll accept her and come to her concert." As we know from other examples on this list, fitting the Disney look can add a lot of pressure to someone, especially someone who felt like they couldn't really express who they really were. Luckily, Disney has been more supportive and inclusive with the LGBTQ community since her original show. Taking over number 3, we have Shia LaBouf. If you followed his career, you would see that he is definitely one to experiment with new projects and avenues. But there was a route he refused to go down when he was working with Disney on the classic show Even Stevens. He did an interview with MTV and said that he stopped working with Disney because they were very controlling over where his career was headed. Turns out they wanted him to start a music career. When looking at Disney, most of their stars started out with acting and then went into singing as their career grew. Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Hilary Duff, to name a few. Even Raven-Symoné. During his interview with MTV, he said, "I never came out with a music thing, even though Disney will push you that way." He went on to say that he always felt out of place at Disney and never felt like he truly belonged. Can you guys just imagine, like, Shia LaBeouf as a singer? Oh, what a world. Taking over the number 2 spot is Demi Lovato. The singer has always been open about her struggles with mental illness and addiction, but that was not always the case. She wasn't very transparent back in her Disney days when she starred on Sunny with a Chance and Camp Rock. In more recent interviews, she has revealed that she struggled with bulimia after getting bullied for her weight while working on Disney. She said she was performing concerts on an empty stomach and started self-medicating for her depression. The pressures of her Disney career quickly caught up to her, which might be why she was so angry in 2012 when Disney Channel made a joke in one of their scripts about eating disorders. Demi lashed out at them on Twitter and tweeted, "I find it really funny how a company can lose one of their actresses from the pressures of an eating disorder and yet still make jokes about that very disease." They responded immediately and said that they were removing both episodes that included the jokes and said it was never their intention to make light of eating disorders. In our number 1 spot is Bella Thorne. This story of Bella has become famous ever since she shared it with her fans. She found fame as a young child on the Disney TV series Shake It Up, but it was cancelled in 2013 despite being the number 1 series in 2 demographics. People thought she was going to stay with Disney and move on to her next project, but it seemed like she was fed up with taking orders from them. After leaving the network, Bella revealed that one time they threatened to fire her after she posted a photo of herself wearing a black bikini. They ended up telling her mom that they cannot afford to fire her at that point, but if she does anything like that again, they will. The worst part about the whole thing was that Bella's mom was the one who bought her that bikini. Once this story came to surface, Bella opened up more about her Disney experience and said she was forced to talk with a higher voice so that she would appeal to Disney's demographic. Even off the show, like during interviews and press, she was asked to change her tone. For anyone who does not follow Bella, she naturally has a deeper voice. Long story short, Bella stopped tolerating the demands and went on to pursue a very different career. She's now acting full-time, putting out music, and is also running an OnlyFans company. No lie. Kicking off our countdown list at number 10 is Britney Spears. It happens often when a famous singer will turn to acting or an actor will turn to singing. Most of the time the two worlds will collide, and sometimes it can be successful. But for Britney, things did not go as well as she probably had hoped. Maybe you forgot about the time that she tried to start an acting career? Back in 2002, her debut movie Crossroads came out and critics were pretty harsh with their reviews. Personally, I loved it, but the movie only got 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, and one review in the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, "Britney Spears' future debut is curiously low-key and even sad." Britney never returned to acting after that one movie, but she did release 7 more albums after that, all of which were very successful. Sometimes I feel like you just gotta stick with what you know and what you're good at. Up next, number 9 is Michael Jordan. He is considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time, which might be why he failed when he tried to do something else with his career. Now, sometimes there are athletes that will be really good at their sport, and that athleticism translates to other sports. That was not the case for Michael Jordan. Back in February 1994, he signed a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox. His batting average at the time was .202. After one season with them, he moved to the Scottsdale Scorpions Scorpions of the Arizona Fall League, where his batting average was .252. According to Sports Illustrated though, he called himself the team's worst player and he returned to the NBA in 1995. Thankfully, his brief stint as a pro baseball player did not ruin his career in basketball. I guess maybe .202 is a low batting score? I just don't know anything about it. Sliding into number 8 is Blake Lively. You would know her as an actress, but there was a time when she wanted to create a career in the lifestyle space and create a website kind of like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. However, Blake was not as successful as Gwen, and her site was very short-lived. Back in 2014, she launched a lifestyle space site called Preserve as a digital monthly magazine, e-commerce site, video blog, with a focus on handmade crafts. I'm a little confused. However, in 2015, she announced that the site was shutting down already and told Vogue that it was not making a difference in people's lives, which was her original mission. Even though she failed to launch the next successful lifestyle website, she is doing just fine. Her acting career continued to succeed, and when she's not on the big screen, she is raising her children with movie star Ryan Reynolds. And that's a dream come true. Coming in next at number 7 is Hulk Hogan. He is a WWE legend, to put it lightly, and although he has made some cameos in Hollywood projects outside of WWE, not all of his projects were successful. At one point in time, he tried to transition from a WWE star to a restaurant owner, two completely different worlds. Back in 1995, he opened up a restaurant called Pasta Mania at the Mall of America in Minneapolis. It seems like a clever idea when you think about it, but not enough people wanted to eat at his pasta eatery. The restaurant did so poorly that it closed less than a year after it officially opened. However, he did find success in other stores. He actually owns Hogan's Beach Shop, which has a few different locations that are all very successful. So, he's fine. We're all fine. Moving on to number 6, we have Heidi Montag. She gained fame after starring on the reality series The Hills, and then she tried to extend her reality fame into other careers, but none of them were very successful. She tried a few different things. The first was a clothing line called Heidiwood, but it was discontinued just 1 year later. After abandoning her fashion designer career, she focused on trying to become the next big pop star. In 2010, she released an album called Superficial, but it sold less than 1,000 copies. Reports say that she actually put in 3 years of work into that album, and almost $2 million of her own money was invested in it. So yeah, that would be a massive fail. After that, she returned to reality TV and appeared on Celebrity Wife Swap, Marriage Boot Camp, Reality Stars, Celebrity Big Brother, and then most recently, you can find her back on The Hills reboot series, which I'm watching. Halfway through the list, at number 5, we have Emma Roberts. Before she became a major film and television star, she was a teen actress on the Nickelodeon show Unfabulous. Her character on the show was a singer, so naturally she did the thing that all young actors do, and she took the chance to try and become a singer in real life. She recorded an album back in 2005, which a lot of people didn't even know existed. Her music career was unsuccessful though, and very short-lived, but she has no problem talking about it. During an interview later down the road, she said she would not be returning to music and said, "My musical career is indefinitely on hold. I don't like people who become like actor/singer. I think people should be one or the other because usually you're not going to be great at both." Sometimes. Regardless, her decision to focus on just acting has really paid off. In spot number 4 is Jennifer Love Hewitt. The actress has had success on both the big screen and the small screen in both film and television. But she was one of those actresses that wanted to pursue a career in music as well. That seems to be a pattern. Sadly, her attempt to make it as a singer never really took off. Throughout the years 1995 to 2002, she actually released 4 different albums, but none of them placed on the US Billboard charts. Her song, however, How Do I Deal, is the only one that charted after release, and that was back in 1999. While we can appreciate her talent and passion to make a music career happen, it just never really stuck. After Criminal Minds wrapped, she decided to take a break from Hollywood and focused on her family. She did return to TV though in 2018, and she now stars on the show 911. Taking over our number 3 spot is Lindsay Lohan. We saw her try the actress/singer thing for a while, and she did find some success in it. She showed off her singing skills in movies like Freaky Friday and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, so she decided to release an album. Her album titled Speak was not a total failure. It peaked at number 4 on the Billboard 200 chart. Following the album, she continued to release some singles, but nothing really went big, and she hasn't done any music since 2008. But another career path she went down was reality TV, and that did not work in her favor either. This one was actually in more recent years. She opened up a beach club in Mykonos and a nightclub in Athens, and decided to do a reality TV show about it with MTV. But the show was cancelled after just 1 season, and the nightclub itself actually shut down not long after that. I watched the show. It wasn't good. Love her, but it wasn't good. Rolling at number 2, we have Kim Kardashian. Maybe you didn't know this about her, or maybe you knew and you tried to erase it from your memory. If that is the case, I apologize for bringing it up, but we need to talk about this. She once tried to make it as a singer, no lie. Back in 2011, she released a single called Jam, Turn It Up, which was harshly criticized for being generic and overusing auto-tune. No surprise there. The single only sold 14,000 downloads in its first 5 days of sales, which wasn't enough for it to crack the Billboard Digital Songs chart. But Kim is actually the first person to admit that she should have never tried to pursue a singing career. During a 2014 interview with Andy Cohen, she said, "I don't like it when people kind of dabble into things they shouldn't be, and I don't think I should have. Like, what gave me the right to think I should be a singer? I don't have a good voice." At least she admits it. Earning the number 1 spot is Lance Bass. This one is probably the most insane out of all of them on our list. He achieved insane amounts of success as a member of the boy band NSYNC, and even dabbled in the acting world a little bit. But something that people don't know about him is that he wanted to become an astronaut. Like, no joke, I'm being serious. In 2002, he underwent training to become the youngest person in space. He was actually slated to spend a week aboard the International Space Station as a guest of Russia, but the plan never actually took off. A month before the space flight was leaving, the Russian Space Agency announced that Bass would not be on the flight, as he had failed to raise the $20 million fare. That's insane. Even though he did not make it to space back then, he still has plans to go. In December 2016, he told Business Insider that he has not given up on that dream to do it. He said, "There is no specific date, but there are plans for me to go." He still is not gone as of 2021, but maybe there is a chance that he really will go to space one day.
At number 10, we have Ashley Parker Angel from O-Town. Ashley Parker Angel was arguably one of the most recognizable members of the Orlando boy-based band O-Town. Considering the group came together due to a reality TV show, this band went on to achieve a considerable amount of success. So when the group decided to part ways in 2003, after 3 years of being a team, out of all the members in the band, MTV wanted to keep working with Angel and even gave him his own follow-up reality TV series, which is called There and Back. While everyone was trying to help Ashley break out as a solo artist, he would soon release an album titled Soundtrack to Your Life. While everyone was hoping Ashley would make it as a solo artist, his album would prove that he had a feasible solo singing career and that it wasn't his destiny to become an artist on his own. Now, when his album actually ended up flopping, critics would start to come out by panning it. Even writer Mike Joseph of Pop Matters would say the album was completely faceless and boring after reconsidering his solo career. Ashley would later enter into the world of theater, where he would start to make appearances on Broadway. At number 9, AJ from the Backstreet Boys. The Backstreet Boys were a major force in pop music since they started recording together in 1993. Even after their split, their music as a band has still gone down as pop hit favorites that we all can't seem to forget. Once the band started to split up, multiple members would try to branch off as solo artists, and one of those members happened to be AJ. So AJ actually had several debut moments as a solo performer. He first started off with an album back in 2010. When that didn't work, he tried to branch off as a country singer back in 2018. His group collaboration with country group Florida Georgia Line inspired AJ to release a country song called Back Porch Bottle Service. But if you listen to the song, you can definitely agree with the rest of the critics that the song was definitely horrifying. AJ's attempt
at country would even cause one country critic to say, "My puppy recently ate 3 socks and regurgitated them out like a machine in succession. The sound of those socks coming back out are how I would describe this song." AJ would even try to defend himself from all the controversy around his move to country, and he would say his goal was to disrupt country, and as a country fan I can definitely say you can never disrupt country, but nice try, AJ. Hey Peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And number 8, Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block. After New Kids on the Block would decide to disband, Joey McIntyre would go on to make it as a solo artist. When Joey released his debut Stay the Same in 1999, this would come a year before Jordan Knight unleashed his failed attempt at a solo career. And just like Jordan, Joey's effort to break out as a solo artist was pretty disastrous, and it would cause reviewers to dismiss him as an artist completely. With the release of one of his projects, Joey would even try to collaborate on a project with Robin Thicke, who was known for his controversial song Blurred Lines. However, even with a collaboration with such a big artist, it wasn't enough to save Joey's career. Even Rolling Stones later come out with an article about Joey where they would review his work and say that Joey has been coming across as a frustrated actor on his album, and that his scripts feel like they were calculated rewrites. It's clear that once you start in a band, your chances of breaking out as a solo artist are slim to none, so take Joey's mistake and maybe find a different career path to switch into so you can avoid some serious ice-burning humiliation. And number 7, JC from NSYNC. NSYNC was so popular that many of us couldn't even imagine the group could ever break up. But then it happened. When Justin Timberlake wanted to take his career to the next step and become a solo artist, the band would break up and they would stop making music together for good. Even though Justin had a rapid emergence as a solo superstar post NSYNC, his fame made it incredibly challenging for the other members of the group to follow in his footsteps. Out of all the members, JC would give it a shot. However, the results of JC's solo endeavor were underwhelming as he didn't perform commercially well, especially compared to his former group and bandmate Justin Timberlake. JC's solo album, Schizophrenic, sold a disappointing 121,000 copies in total, and it received some pretty lukewarm reviews. JC was nothing more than a wannabe Timberlake, so his career just ended up crashing and burning. And number 6, Noah from The Wanted. At one point in our lives, everyone has had at least one boy band they were obsessed with as teenagers, and for some people that band was The Wanted. After being together for 7 years, the band would decide to split after some ongoing tensions between the members became stronger. After the band decided to go their separate ways in 2014, Noah decided to release a solo album. When he released his album Unfinished Business in 2016, although it charted for 1 week at the number 2 spot, it ultimately would start to receive some below average reviews from critics. Even The Guardian music writer Michael Craig would come out to say that the song relied too heavily on copying other music influences. Throughout, his voice stretched thin by the earnest of his delivery. After that, Nathan pretty much just disappeared, so it makes you wonder where he is today. Number 5, Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees. So Jeff Timmons said back in 2021 that the band 98 Degrees never really officially broke up. At the time, all the members in the band all just had different things going on, and many wanted to go different directions as many of the members actually started their own families. Now it's clear Jeff's name wasn't recognizable on its own, so following the group's disbandment, many of us were really interested to see where Jeff would go on with his solo career. And honestly, it was just as disappointing as we thought it was going to be. When Jeff released Whisper That Way in 2004, the music was supposed to be reminiscent of the early 90s romantic pop genre, but somehow it just ended up more dated than his former band's music. The album would go on to fade from not only mainstream but from our minds as well. Do you think Jeff Timmons going solo was a total disaster? And let me know in the comments below. And number 4, Jordan Knight from New Kid on the Block. After Jordan Knight's brother started to experience increased panic attacks, Jonathan Knight would make the decision to leave the band, and shortly after, the remaining 4 members would make the decision to disband the group completely. Now Jordan, as a member of New Kids on the Block, was arguably responsible for paving the way for the influx of the boys bands dominating charts. From the beginning, Jordan Knight was a sensation among his teen fan base from day one, so we were all really looking forward to see what he was going to bring to the table. However, after the band decided to split, it seems like the admiration that the fans had for him didn't seem to follow him to his solo career. Many have speculated that Jordan's career didn't pop off like it should have because he just chose the wrong time to start as a solo artist. When Jordan tried to launch his solo career in 1999, he had to compete with a heyday of boy band stars. Also, critics didn't really appreciate his self-titled debut. When his album also debuted, Entertainment Weekly would come out to say Jordan's voice on the project was bland and he was just another kid on the block. And number 3, Nick Carter, Backstreet Boys. Just like other members of the Backstreet Boys who tried to venture off into their solo careers, Nick Carter's attempt would fail miserably. When compared to the success of the Backstreet Boys, Nick Carter's solo venture was unfortunate. After Nick decided to split from the group in 2002, he would go on to release Now or Never. Now, it would gain enough attention to earn the album a gold certification, but it never reached the heights of his former boy band's pop stardom. Nick Carter would try to schedule concerts that wouldn't fill, and he kept trying to push his career in the hopes that one day it would take off, but it never did. Critics and fans were receptive of the singer's attempt at a solo career, and even a music editor called Nick a former pin-up boy band member with nowhere to go. You think even with Nick being featured on his family's reality TV show, he would have had enough power to get his career to take off, but he definitely was missing the it factor on his own to allow that to happen. And number 2, Davy Jones from the Monkees. The Monkees officially broke up in 1970 following the cancellation of their TV series on NBC, with 2 members leaving the band by 1969. After a failure of their 9th album, the remaining members would finally make the decision to disband the group. Following the failed album Changes, Davy Jones would announce that he would be resuming his career solo. He would also make a joke that Mickey would be continuing on as the Monkey. Davy would then go on to release his first post-Monkey solo effort in 1971, and it would definitely be met with some lukewarm reviews and low chart positions. Davy's album would then cause Aaron Badgley from AllMusic to leave a pretty disappointing review. Aaron would go on to note that Davy sounded statistically similar to the Monkees, which would make sense if Davy was trying to market his solo music to the same audience. However, his attempt of going solo ultimately failed, while Davy would pass away in 2012. In 2016, the remaining Monkees would release a reunion album titled Good Times, and it was a pretty good album, but we were all wishing Davy's voice could be heard on it. And number 1, Joe Jonas from the Jonas Brothers. Now, it's hard working with siblings, and if you don't believe that statement, just take a look at the Jonas Brothers. Following a huge rift between the brothers, Joe Jonas would find himself seeing a therapist, and he would know he was no longer on speaking terms with his brothers during an interview with Reddit AM. He would go on to note that back in 2016, when the brothers decided to split, they were focusing on another tour, and that they had plans to hit the road and do what they had been doing for a while. When Nick brought up to the table that he wanted to focus on different things like acting and doing music on his own, the brothers would officially call it quits. Now, Nick had a pretty impressive career as a solo artist. However, following the dissolution of Jonas Brothers, Joe would even try to follow in his brother's footsteps in a solo career. However, Joe's first album, Fast Life, commercially failed as it only sold 18,000 units its first week. Critics would then come out to note that after Joe's album Fast Life came out, the hype of the Jonas Brothers would soon decline. The singer would then go on to find himself in a relative success as a member in a different pop band and has released a couple of hit songs since. However, the most iconic songs definitely came from his days in his brother's boy band.